Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Mastering the Art of Change. My name is Lisa Clark, and I am the sales manager here at Riverwoods Exeter. And I'm joined by Diane Lang today, who will be speaking to us all about the art of change. But a few housekeeping items first. Everyone is on mute, but we always welcome your questions. There will be an opportunity for this at the end of the presentation. You may submit your questions through the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. And we always welcome your suggestions on how we can improve these webinars. We do a lot of them, and many of you are loyal attendees at these webinars. And we're always looking for ideas for future topics, so please feel free to make suggestions. Before we launch into Diane's content, I want to tell you a little bit about Riverwoods as the sponsor of this program. Riverwoods is a continuing care retirement community. Many of you on the call today already know about us because you may be on our wait list, but there are others on the call today who don't know about Riverwoods or what a CCRC is. We are basically an insurance product for long-term care. Our contracts are regulated by the state in which we operate, which is New Hampshire, and thus our financial performance is reported to the state annually. CCRC allows you to prepay and insure yourself for the potential need of a higher level of health care, including assisted living, memory support, or nursing and long-term care needs. And because of that, a portion of both your entry fee that you would pay to come live at Riverwoods, as well as your monthly service fees, qualify as a tax deduction because they are considered to be a prepaid medical expense. Living in a CCRC like Riverwoods allows you to enter while living independently. You have freedom from doing any household chores because we take care of everything. We provide transportation to essential physician appointments and groceries and banks. And we provide a full wealth of opportunities in terms of activities and programs and education while you're living here. So you get really a lot of increased opportunity for socializing, which is so healthy to all of our well-being. And living in a CCRC like Riverwoods really allows you to stay in control of your life. A little bit about Riverwoods. We are comprised of 3 different communities, all in the state of New Hampshire. The original one here in Exeter, which is where I'm based. We also have a community in Manchester, New Hampshire, and then a 3rd community in Durham, New Hampshire. All 3 of these communities share the same values. They are advised by a board of directors, a volunteer board, that focuses on our operations. And then all 3 communities are supported by the Riverwoods Group, which is our parent entity that provides professional fee-based services such as human resources, marketing, IT, finance, and quality. And the Riverwoods Group also funds any at-risk projects within the communities and any new ventures that we may have. Each community, it's important to know, does stand independent of one another financially. And they have the opportunity to provide additional funding to the Riverwoods Group for future growth opportunities based on their available assets. The Riverwoods Group is advised by a volunteer board of directors who are focused on mission and growth. So with that said, I am happy to introduce our presenter today, Diane Lang, who will be speaking to us about the art of change. Diane is a practicing counselor. She's a national speaker, educator, and certified positive psychology coach with a master's degree in counseling. And she is an adjunct at Montclair State University in the undergraduate psychology department. Diane's written 3 books and has been featured in various publications and on TV and internet shows. So really happy to have you with us, Diane, to talk about the art of change. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. And hi, everybody. I hope everybody's been enjoying their day, and thank you so much for joining us today. So we're going to be talking about mastering the art of change. And I know when most people hear the word change or transition, they instantly get stressed and anxious. And the truth is, many people fear change. But I just want to put out there, even if you have this anxiety or fear of the unknown, the uncertainty of change, you have to remember no matter where you are in life today, you have been changing successfully for years and years. And we tend to never think of it that way. But if you look back in your life, you've gone through different schools, elementary, middle school or junior high, high school, maybe college, different jobs that you've gone through. You've gotten married, you've had families, you've moved a few times. You might be thinking or considering downsizing now. And remembering that you have gone through all those changes. And some of them are just changes that come with age and with life. And sometimes there's changes that we have to deal with due to certain circumstances. But whatever it is, you are here today and have survived, thrived, and gained resiliency from all of the change. So no matter what comes your way, and things will come because life is a roller coaster ride, right? There's always ups and downs. Remember that you have been through change for years and you are doing well. So when we think about the ups and downs of life, the roller coaster ride, remembering when things are really good to enjoy them, savor the moment. And savoring is so important because savoring is a positive emotion. So we get a boost of happiness. So really savor that time. And when things are not going as well, remember that everything in life is temporary. So where you are today, whatever you're feeling today is probably not what you're going to feel like maybe this afternoon, tomorrow, next week, or next month. The only constant in the world is change. Everything is temporary. So as we move on, just remember that change is the only constant in the world. And even if you try to avoid change, and I have a client who I remember told me she hates change. And she said, I refuse to change. She said she's been driving the same type of car. She only sticks with Chevy. She lives in the same house the last 40 years. She wears the same brands, eats the same food, goes to the same restaurant, shopping. She goes, I just refuse to change. And I said, well, even if you don't change or try not to change, you're always changing physically because we're always aging. So things are changing no matter what. Even if you stay the same, everything around you is changing, right? The seasons are changing, spring is happening, or at least trying to happen here in the Northeast in between the rain and the clouds. You physically change, you age, you might be going through different changes due to that, whether it's perimenopause or menopause or hormonal changes. We go through the change of retirement, downsizing. So all of it is going to be here no matter what. And remembering this, that change is a natural progression. It's been happening since birth. It's going to continue happening, and everything is just normal and natural. The one thing you want to remember with change is the more you try to resist it, the more you try to fight it, the more stress you will have. And that's something that we forget about. So I'm going to be writing, it's a chat board not open. Okay, so I'm not going to be writing on the chat board. Sometimes I put notes up there, but I won't. Remembering this, when you resist something, the more you resist it, the more stress you get. The more you resist something, the more it persists. So when change is happening, if you accept that there is a change, even acknowledge it, identify it. So it might be going through a change. I'm selling my home. I'm looking to downsize. I'm looking to move. Identify it, acknowledge it, feel the emotions that come up with it, and then it'll kind of be like a wave. It'll come up, you'll feel the stress and anxiety, but then it'll flow out. So the more you accept change, the more you accept what's going on around you without fighting it, without resisting it, the easier it will come. So thinking about that and remembering resistance equals more stress. And the one thing we don't want to do is add stress to our day. We know we can't live a stress-free life. I wish we could. And if I could find that magic pill, I would give it to everybody. But unfortunately, we can't. But this is the thing about stress. Stress is okay. Stress can be an alarm or a warning sign that something's going on that you need to take a pause and stop and look at it. Stress could be fight or flight. It's giving you a warning. Stress can allow you to know that something's important to you, like positive stress. But with stress, we want to manage it. We want to keep it that we manage it and that we can really work
Oh,
through
we
the
lost
day.
audio.
You lost audio. You can't hear me? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, all is well. You can continue.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I just heard somebody say they lost audio. Sorry. Okay. There we go. A change in stress that just happened right here just to show you guys. So remembering this about change. Change is both a beginning and an ending. So anytime something is ending, which can cause some stress, it can cause some sadness. And remember, every time we're going through a major change or transition, we grieve a little. So if you're in the middle of a move or retirement or downsizing, whatever it is, right? Even though that can feel sad and you can grieve, absolutely. But at the same time, it's also opening the door to a new beginning, which means new opportunities, new possibilities. So you want to remember that every ending will also bring a brand new beginning. Now, when we're going through a change, absolutely change can bring fear. Any change transition will bring some fear, some anxiety. And this is what happens when we have the unknown, when we're looking at the future, we get what's called anticipatory anxiety. And we get that because we don't know what's going to happen. There's all the what ifs, and that can keep us a little bit in fear. And remembering this fear, stress, feeling kind of frozen because fear can paralyze people where you feel kind of stuck, a little bit stale, stagnation. Again, it's normal. We just want to be aware of what change can cause for us and feel those emotions. The only way through them is to feel, is to heal. So the more you feel something, the more you heal working through it. So it's normal, it's natural. Change is the only constant. So a little bit about change. When we're thinking about change, whether again it's a change that is forced upon you or not, you want to think about change and transition. So everybody has the ability to change. Everybody. Now, we can't change anybody but ourselves. We don't have the ability to control or change anyone but ourselves. But if you want to make a change, you actually have the ability. When I first graduated grad school, showing my age back in the 90s, we weren't sure if people had the ability to change. We used to think that you were just a victim of your DNA, it was genetics, and this was it. But we now know everybody has the ability to change, but it is making the choice and the commitment to change. So if you're going to make a change, you're transitioning, you have to ask yourself, am I 100% in? Am I committed to this change? And also, one of the great motivators of change is knowing why. Why am I making this change? And we want the why to be intrinsic, meaning that it's something that internally means something to you. There's a purpose there, it gives you meaning. When we make change based on extrinsic or external things, whether it's title, status, power, more money, more material things, it gives us a short-term boost of happiness, but not a long-term boost. So if you're making a change, make sure that you know the why. Why are you doing this? And make sure it's something important to you that gives you meaning and purpose. And once you do that, and then you can set up your goals, your action plans, you can move forward. Now, one of the things that keeps us stuck with change, besides fear, is what is your belief system on change? Now, growing up, just so you know, you get most of your belief systems between about birth and 7, 8 years old. So we developed all these belief systems when we were a child. So as you were growing up, whoever raised you, your parents, your grandparents, your siblings, if you had a nanny or babysitter, any of that, you want to think about what did they talk about when it came to change? How did they act when it came to change? Because your belief systems are just thoughts that you heard over and over again from other people. That's all it is. So if you grew up in a family that was always discussing change as in fear, they didn't like change. Anytime change happened, you saw them, having so much stress and anxiety, then your belief system on change is going to be the same exact way. So if you have a belief on change and transition that's very negative, it's going to stick that way. And we develop so many beliefs from, they're learned from our families that don't necessarily mean they're even true. So one of the best ways to think about this is I've had a lot of clients who have a belief on their finances, right? If we think about finances and they go back and they say that their parents or grandparents were raised during the Great Depression, and they have this fear, or what we call the scarcity belief system, where we fear there's not enough. And they'll hold on to that belief even in later life, even in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even though it's not even based on truth or fact. If we do a fact check on their life, they'll say they have savings. They have enough savings. If something happened that they couldn't work for 6 months, they have enough saved for retirement. Their job at this moment is safe, so is their spouse's. But their belief system is so fear-based on money from how they were raised and how it was talked about in the family that it stays that way. So your belief system on change, you can change that. That is one thing to remember. Your mindset is completely in your control, which means your beliefs, your patterns, your habits and routines are completely in your control. So if you find that your belief system on change and transitioning is very negative and scary, then you want to think about, what is my belief system on it? And is it even based on truth or fact? Is it even true at this moment? And if not, then you want to change it, because that's part of what can keep you stuck. Then you want to think about, are you ready to change? So yes, everybody has the ability to change, but it's asking yourself, are you ready to change? Sometimes people are just not at that point where they're ready to change, and that's okay. There is no time frame or time limitation on it. It's just asking yourself, is this the time frame? Is this the moment that I really want to make this change? And is it worth it for me to make the change now in my current situation? Now, sometimes people wait till they hit that rock bottom before they make a change. We don't need to go that way, but there is power in rock bottom. When somebody just hits that place in life where nothing is going right, they're not happy, they're constantly stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, that can help them make the decision to move up and make the change. But you don't have to wait that long. You do want to ask yourself, am I ready to change? Is this the right time? Am I really willing to do this? Am I committed to it? A lot of times people don't want to change because they're afraid it's going to rock the boat. What we mean by that is the change that you're making can affect everybody around you. So, I still remember I had a client who was, raising her kids. She stayed at home and she decided to go back to work. And her family was like, no, no, no. They did not want her to go back to work because they were so used to having her home and having dinner and lunch made and making sure they can be driven to every activity. And all of a sudden, the thought of her going back to work, even though financially it would be better for the family, was rocking the boat. And the kids and the husband were like, no, 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 but we need you home. So sometimes it's the fear of rocking the boat and how you making a change will affect other people. Sometimes we don't want to make a change because we're afraid of losing that stability or security. If you've been living in a home for 30, 40 years and you raised your kids there, the thought of leaving that environment could be very scary, even if moving and downsizing would be beneficial for you. Just the thought of that change would be really scary. So thinking about, do you want to change? Are you ready to change? What happens when you do change? What does it look like for everybody around you? And then making the decision, do I want to make the change? Now, there's two types of change. There's the planned change, which is the one we are completely aware of, but it doesn't mean that it's not stressful. So we have what's called positive stress. Yes, that's a real thing, where the final outcome is amazing. It's what you really want, but getting to that place can be very stressful, right? So having a move, I have a client right now that's moving from, I live in the New York, New Jersey area, and she's moving to Florida. And she made that decision because she'll be closer to her kids and it'll be warmer weather. But the stress of selling the house The stress of downsizing, the stress of finding a new place, it's really overwhelming for her. But she can see the final picture of being really great because she's moving into warmer weather. She'll be closer to her daughter, her grandkids. She doesn't need this big house anymore. But it's still stressful and still scary. So even when change is planned, it can still really feel scary, and that's completely normal. Unplanned is forced change that you can't prepare or plan for. It could still even be beneficial. There's always some silver linings in change. So, an unplanned change would be COVID, right? Because life seems to be about pre COVID and post COVID. So, when COVID hit and we had the lockdowns, everybody was scared. We had no idea what was going on, the uncertainty, right? But it doesn't mean that there wasn't any benefits. If it wasn't for COVID, people wouldn't have learned to work from home and now be able to spend more time with family or loved ones. They wouldn't have more time to be there for the people they care and love. If it wasn't for COVID, people wouldn't have a lot of this technology where we get to be social in the winter time when it's rainy or snowy, or if we don't feel good, we still can be social. So there was a lot of silver linings that can come from unplanned. But unplanned change does make you think about reevaluating your situation, your life, and thinking about things from a different perspective, from a different lens. But again, think about this. A lot of times, the best changes in your life were unplanned. Something happened, maybe you lost your job, the company went out of business, or they did layoffs, and you were really upset. But if that didn't happen, you wouldn't have started your own business. So a lot of times the unplanned changes, even though they force you to kind of reevaluate your life, they can end up being the best thing that's ever happened to you. Now, if you're going through a little bit of a change and transition, whether it's planned or unplanned, one of the things you can do is make yourself feel a little bit more in control, because that's usually the issue, right? The unknown, the uncertainty makes us feel this lack of control. What you do is get as much information and knowledge about the situation. Whatever the situation is, get as much information and knowledge about it. Because knowledge is the enemy of fear. The more we know, the more we understand, the more we get a sense of control and power back. So just get as much as information and knowledge you can, take your time with it. Then when you have all of that information, sit down with some people that you trust and love. And here's the key word with that is unconditional. We want people that will be honest with us, that'll tell us what we need to hear, but they won't abandon us, reject us, or judge us for it. Because we have that fear that they only love us with conditions, when things are okay for them, when things are going good, or it serves them, then we won't open up. We won't have that self-disclosure. We won't be our authentic selves. So sit down with just one or two people and tell them what's going on, give them all the information and knowledge that you have, and then create some solutions from it. Now, remember, the people that are helping you, they're not connected to the situation, so they'll see things from a different perspective. They have a different lens because they don't have the emotional attachment. So with them, you can write out like the top 4 or 5 solutions to the problem. And it's good when you have a few different solutions, because you could start with number one, the priority solution. Try it. If it works, great, you're done. If that doesn't work, cross it off your list and go to the next solution. And that gives you some backups, which again gives us some security of, okay, well, if this one solution doesn't work, I still have solution 2, 3, and 4. And that helps us to feel a sense of control and power. Because again, when we're going through a change, especially an unplanned change, that's the first thing that happens is we feel like we've lost all our power. We feel this sense of losing control. And that's what causes a lot of the anxiety and a lot of the stress. So what happens here is when we're going through a change or transition and we're in that time of uncertainty, the unknown, the fear, we're not in the moment. And this is where we want to be mindful. And this is why mindfulness is so important. So you probably have heard of the word mindfulness. It's a buzzword. It's very trendy. And when people think of mindfulness, they tend to think of meditation, yoga, sitting in nature, deep breathing, right? And those are all great. Those are all intentional practices of being mindful. But what mindfulness is mindfulness is the ability to be completely awake and aware of what's going on around you, what's going on in your environment, what do you hear, what do you see, what do you feel, It's also being completely aware of what's ruminating in your brain, what thoughts are circling in there, and being able to get back into the moment. Because when we're stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, angry, right, all of those emotions we call negative. I hate calling them negative because, again, the truth is they're natural, they're normal emotions, but they're more intense. But when we're in stress, anger, anxiety, fear, we're usually either in the past, thinking about what we should have done, what we could have done, regrets, or we're carrying all that past baggage with us into the moment. When we're not in the past, then we find ourselves in the future having that anticipatory anxiety we talked about. We're worried about what could happen, what might happen. But when I'm here in the moment, when I'm in the here and now, I am my most healthiest and happiest. I reduce my stress hormone cortisol. I lower blood pressure. I reduce chronic pain. I am my most productive and creative, which is great for work, volunteer, hobbies. And I self soothe and calm. So when you find yourself feeling that stress, anxiety, overwhelm, fear due to a change or transition, you want to put some mindfulness back into your day. And one of the things to think about is routines. Because routines are so important, they're completely in our control. And routines, consistency, schedule make us feel very balanced and give us some safety and security because we know certain things we can expect for each day. Even if things step outside of their comfort zones, even if we have something unknown happen, we still have the comfort of knowing there's a few things that are going to happen no matter what. So you want to have that routine. And in your routine, both we need a morning routine and an evening routine. So morning routine set you up for a day of success to have a really good day. Your evening routine sets you up to wind down so you can get a good night's sleep. So you want to think about how can I add some mindfulness into those moments, right? So the first thing you can do in the morning, talking about the morning routine, one of the first things you can do is just make your bed and get dressed. I know it's something that most of us do. Takes 30 seconds to a minute, very easy, but it's a military activity. Every time you make your bed and then you get dressed, even if you're working from home or you're staying home that day, maybe you're babysitting the grandkids, whatever it is, even if you change out of pajamas into a pair of sweats and a different shirt, it gives you the two positive emotions of pride and accomplishment. And every time you get a positive emotion, you get a boost of happiness. So just starting your day with making your bed, getting dressed, you get that. The next thing you could do is this great question that was created by a cardiologist and a clinical psychologist. And it's just called, really, it's a curious question. It's just asking yourself, and you could do this while you're in the shower, drinking your coffee, say it out loud, say it in your head, but just ask yourself, how can I make this a great day? That's it. Just throw that out to the universe. Don't try to answer it. Just let it kind of float and process in your head. And believe it or not, as the day goes, you'll start getting some responses of what would make your day better. It's just starting with those two things. Then you want to add some mindfulness into the day, right? So if it could be exercise, any type of exercise would be great. Doesn't matter what it is. But remembering this, our bodies are called the pain body. And that's because we hold all of those negative emotions through our body. And that's what causes us to feel the stress and anxiety. We tense up. So you want to think about removing the stress from your body, all that tension. So there's a few things that really work. So you can wake up in the morning and you could just shake it out. Just shaking it out, literally I'm doing my hands, my legs. You can't see my legs, but just stretching, shaking, it releases the tension out of your body. Stretching is great. So if you are having any type of tension, now a lot of times when people wake up, they'll go, my whole body aches. And people always say, I think it's my age. But the truth of the matter is, it doesn't even have to do with age. When you go to bed at night, if you are very stressed or anxious, you're going to have dreams that are very stressful and anxious. Now, we usually, if you sleep the normal amount, which is like 7, 8 hours, which doesn't really happen for me, but if it happens to you, you go through about 4 to 5 REM cycles. So you have about 4 to 5 dreams. And your dreams are like this vivid movie that you can feel. So if there's fire in it, you'll feel the heat. If you're running, you'll move in your sleep. So we can have these tense up dreams and wake up very tense. Or for a lot of people, they wake up in the morning and the rumination starts of what they have to do that day. what's going on in their life that's stressing them out, and they tense up instantly. So whether you shake it out, go for a nice walk, or you stretch. Now, the common areas that we hold stress in our body is different for everybody, but knowing where you hold the stress is really important because you can stretch it out there. Most common areas, again, these are generalizations, you might hold it someplace else, is the first is right up here because we get our shoulders, our neck, and our upper back because we tense up like this. And that's the first area. Now, if you're getting it here, your shoulders, your back, your neck area, you do very simple stretches sitting or standing. We just roll your shoulders back, just rolling them back. Hard to see this on Zoom, I know, and to show you in my chair, but then roll them forward. Just doing a few. You could do much more of them, but I'm just doing a few. Or you can lift your shoulders to your ears and hold. You could do all three of them. Shoulder roll front, shoulder roll back, and just lift. Stretches are very relaxing. They should be gentle and never hurt. If you notice you're holding a lot of stress and tension in your wrists, your fingers, whether it's texting, typing on the computer, writing a lot, arthritis, one way to do that is you can just roll your wrists, roll them back and forth, or up and down. And then you can pretend that you're playing the piano. And that's really good if you have any fine motor skill tension or stress or arthritis. Or if you have a cat, you know, they have a scratch board, you can do that. And that'll help. And again, just shaking it out. If you get it just solely in your neck, or if you're like me, you get TMJ because we tend to either grind or clench. Men tend to grind, women tend to clench, but either way, it causes the same reaction of TMJ, otherwise known as lockjaw, which can cause teeth sensitivity, teeth pain. It feels like your jaw is going to lock open when you're eating, a clicking noise. It can cause ear pain or throat pain. Then you want to hit the neck area. And very simply, stretching can just be looking to your right, then looking to your left, or in any order, or just doing the full circle where you just start with your chin down to your chest, then over to one side. You can add to the stretch with your hand. If you want, gentle, then looking up, and then to the other side. And again, you can add to that stretch, and then back down. The other area that a lot of us hold stress, tension, is we get headaches or migraines. And if that is you, one of the best ways for anxiety and stress and all of that is to put ice. So if you're home, you can have, you could take even a bag of peas or some ice and you put it on your head. And that will relax a lot of the stress and tension. And a lot of times you get headaches and migraines because you're grinding your teeth. So again, doing a lot of neck exercises, shoulders, stretching it out. If you get it in your stomach, which is another common area that people hold a lot of stress and tension, and for some people, they get very nauseous, take the ice and put it on the back of your neck. That helps reduce. Ice or cold water helps reduce stress and tension and anxiety right in the moment, or if you're even going into more of a full-blown anxiety attack. If you feel nauseous, you put the ice behind it. If you're getting a headache, you put it here. If you're out in public and you don't have any of that and get a can of soda or go into the bathroom, put your wrists right under cold water, run it, and that cools it off. Or you could take the can of water or soda or whatever you have and put it on your wrist, put it on your head, whatever helps. But knowing where you hold stress on your body and releasing it. If you're getting it in your lower body, some people get it in their hips or lower back, just want to just stretch it out each side. And again, this is very gentle. I'm just going to each side. And this could be done standing or sitting, and it helps relieve it. So you could do that morning or night. Many of my clients love to do what we call a free write, which is another mindfulness technique where you just sit down, pen and paper, going very old school. It's much more therapeutic when you write it out. You just want to write out whatever you're feeling. Just a way to release it and not hold on to it. Because again, we tend to ruminate and hold on to everything that's going on. And we have over 60,000 thoughts a day. So we're always thinking no matter what, but we want to really not hold on to the negativity as much. So writing it out is a great way. And that's called a brain dump or a free write, where you just write whatever you're feeling No judgment, no spell check, no grammar check. You're just writing it. When you're done, you can keep it as a journal or like a diary where you go back and you look at how far you've come, notice patterns, aha moments. Or if you choose, you can rip it up like you're ripping up your negativity and throw it away. Doesn't matter. Either way works. For some other people, they like to do prayers. Now, prayer, believe it or not, doesn't matter what your religion is or if it's spiritual, prayer is a form of mindfulness. You might want to start off with a prayer, and that could just take a few minutes, depending on how much time you have. And then in the evening, you can do meditation. And meditation, a lot of my spiritual religious clients will say, I pray to talk to God or higher power, and I meditate to listen. Now, if you're having a hard time winding down at night or going to sleep, a few things. Meditation is great. This is the thing, whatever you're thinking about 20 to 30 minutes before you go to bed affects if you sleep, how you dream, and what mood you wake up in the morning. So you really want to be very mindful of what you're doing before bed. So meditation or guided meditation. So if you're like some of my clients who say, I can't meditate, and just so you know, there's no right or wrong. But if you feel like that, you can do what we call guided meditations, where you just put in headphones and you listen. Now you can listen through an app like Calm or Headspace or on YouTube, but there is a great app that's completely free called Insight Timer. And on there, they have one of the biggest libraries of meditations. Now, guided could be either just meditative music, it could be just someone talking to you, it could be the mix of the meditative music and somebody doing the meditation with you, or you can listen to nature sounds, waterfall, the beach, thunderstorm, whatever you like, and that gives you that white noise calming. The other thing you can do before bed if you're having a hard time sleeping or very stressed is you can listen to stories, which you can find on the Insight Timer or the other apps or YouTube. Kind of like when we were young and somebody would read us a story, and that will put you to sleep. But one of the best ways scientifically to actually fall asleep is to read an old-fashioned book. But again, remembering whatever you're thinking about 20 to 30 minutes beforehand affects your sleep. You want it to be something light and fun. And the same thing with your technology. You want to remove any technology, not a TV. I know a lot of you fall asleep with the TV, but remove your smartphones, your laptops, your tablets about 60 minutes beforehand because that could be overstimulating. Plus, the blue light keeps us up. And then read a good old-fashioned book or watch something that's fun and light. No news before bed, please. The news just provokes fear. And of course, for the rest of the day or before or morning or evening, you could do some deep breathing. And if you're in the moment of change and stress, deep breathing is one of the best ways to calm the body. And once you're calm, the physical symptoms, the mental symptoms kind of go with it. And all it is, a meditative breath, all it looks like is it goes in through your nose, hold, exhale through your mouth, pause, repeat. That's all it is. So you could do it as the 1-2-3 technique where everything's a count of 3, or you could do what the military does, which is called box breathing, which is just 4 sides, so it's count of 4. But a typical meditative breath, and there's so many different ways to meditate. There's so many different ways to deep breathe, especially if you do yoga, which is another great way to be mindful. But if you're stressed or anxious, very easy. All you do is take a deep breath in through your nose, hold, exhale, pause, repeat. Now, I usually do the box one, which is count to 4. So I'm going to do that with you guys for a few seconds. And if you want to close your eyes as long as you feel safe and secure. That adds to the relaxation and the calming. But all it looks like is you're going to take a deep breath in, and I will do the counting. So everybody take a deep breath in for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. And pause for 4. And start again. Take a deep breath in through your nose for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 4. And just sit for 4. And even just doing it twice, you'll already feel your body relaxing. Now, if you don't want to do deep breathing, or as my client said to me yesterday, he's getting so many allergies, he's all congested, he can't breathe, then you can do grounding, which is another form of mindfulness. And all it is just using your senses. And we do it called the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And in any order, because there's no right or wrong, you just want to think about what are 5 things, and I'm just using it in this order, but again, pick your own order. What are 5 things you see? Look around your room, observe 5 things you see. What are 4 things you can touch? And you can just do like warmth, feeling the heat between your hands if you do this, or the stretch, feeling your shirt, feeling your hair. It could be if you have a soft sweater on or pants. What are you feeling? What are you touching? What are 3 things you hear? I can hear my dog snoring behind me. I hope you can't hear that. I can hear the computer humming. I hear the heater going on. What are 2 things you smell? I smell the moisturizer I just put on my hands. I smell the shampoo in my hair. And 1 thing you taste. You have something next to you, you can taste. Or you could just taste what was in your mouth. Maybe you just brushed your teeth and you're still tasting the mint, or maybe whatever you ate. And again, that will do the same thing. And one last one. At night, we tend to do gratitude. That's a great way to end the night, because what happens when we do gratitude is a positive emotion, but it also cultivates mindfulness. So you get both the boost of happiness, but you also get the mindfulness. So before bed, all you want to do is ask yourself this simple question. What are 2 to 3 things that you are grateful for that happened today? And you want to look through your day for the little gifts, blessings, and miracles. Now, why that's a little different is when you ask yourself, what are you grateful for in general? Most people say, well, I'm grateful I'm alive. I'm grateful for my health, the roof over my head, and those are great. But if you say them every day for weeks on end, get into what we call a gratitude rut, where it loses its value and meaning. But if you start looking through your day for the little gifts, blessings, and miracles, start shifting what you notice and you start rewiring your brain to be a little more positive. And it means that you'll be having positivity before you go to sleep at night, which is important. And I'll wrap it up with this, and then we'll move on to some questions. Is positive emotions is another great way to balance out the negative of the stress and anxiety from all the change. Just, negative emotions are stronger than positive emotions because we are all born with what we call the negative bias. So it means that and that's genetic for everybody. We tend to see the negative, get stuck in the negative a little bit more. To balance that out, you want to have 3 positive emotions to balance out 1 negative. So if you can have a daily diet or a daily dose of positive emotions, actually balance out the negative, and every time you have one, you get that boost of happiness, which is so important. So try to get as much positive emotions, and you can get them by giving or receiving. Love, joy, random acts of kindness, gratitude, which we talked about, to get pride and accomplishment, which you get just from making your bed, inspiration, hope, curiosity. There's many more. Try to get as many as you can. It makes the difference in balancing out the negativity and giving you that boost of happiness. So I'm going to wrap up, because if not, I can keep babbling to you and just giving you way more information. But so I'm going to stop now, and Lisa's going to come back in, and thank you guys for being here, and we'll do some questions.
Thank you, Diane. I actually think we wanted to see if you could cover just one last slide before we go into our questions. And that was if you might review the stages of change for folks briefly before we get into the questions.
Sure. So there are different stages of change, just like there's stages of grief. And the same rules apply in this, that even though we're giving you the stages, everybody's different. Everybody feels different. So you can stay in a different stage for longer. Sometimes you miss some stages, and there's no right or wrong. So the first stage of change, just like grief, is shock denial. And a lot of times that's especially when it's unplanned, or even when it's planned, but we expected it to go a different way. So sometimes you will feel that shock and denial. The second one is the emotions come up. And again, we need to feel to heal. So these emotions come up. So you want to acknowledge them, that they're there, whatever you feel, emotionally, whatever's coming up, but also whatever you feel, because emotions come up physically on our body as well as emotional. And that is the only way to kind of get to the next stage, is by feeling those emotions that come up due to the change. Don't judge them, just feel them. The next is the new norm. So you're shifting away from what was, right, the ending, and shifting into the new chapter, which is the beginning. But when you're going through the change from the old chapter to the new chapter, you get into this place which is called the gap phase, where you haven't quite left the old chapter yet, and you're not quite in the new chapter yet. And this is a time for self-evaluation. This is a time for you to think about, what parts of my last chapter, the older chapter identity that I went through, do I want to come with me into my next chapter? What parts of that weren't working that I want to release, which can be habits that you want to release, belief systems, patterns, it could even be people. Sometimes some of our biggest stressors are people. And then looking at the next chapter and saying, what do I want the next chapter to look like? And just kind of thinking about, what would my next chapter look like, feel like? Because it's hard to get into the next chapter if we don't know what we want it to look like. So taking this time to self-evaluate, doing a little of that evaluation work, asking yourself some questions, whether you write them out, think about it, but really remembering this during the gap phase, there is no right or wrong of how long it takes. Take a few weeks, it could take a few months. Please don't judge it. Just work through it and process the old chapter, whatever you need to grieve through, process, and then start looking at what you want the next phase of your life to look like. Then there is acceptance, which is, okay, the change has happened, and I'm accepting what is, and I'm deciding that I want to move forward. And to move forward, you want to take some action. Because when we take action, it helps us realize that we're moving towards something. We don't feel as stuck anymore, and it gives us back that sense of control. And it reminds us that what we went through is temporary. So move forward by setting some goals. Now, when you set a goal, make sure you have an action plan underneath. What are 1 or 2 steps that you can take currently to move yourself towards that goal? And you can reevaluate your goals and tweak them. Some people do it monthly, some do it every quarter, whatever works for you. And then there's maintenance, which is, again, same as grief, just keeping the new habits and the behaviors going. Now, remember, if you are making a big change, so maybe you're changing a habit, forming a new habit, whatever it is, usually takes about 3 months scientifically to form a new habit that's autopilot, that you don't need willpower and discipline, that you don't need to think about. So if you're making a change, maybe you're changing your diet, maybe, you got you have to due to an illness or injury, or your doctors are telling you, if you decide to change that, maybe you're removing sugar, which is something I should do, but haven't done it yet. It takes a good 2.5, 3 months to consistently get to that place where I don't reach for the chocolate or even think about it. Because we want it to become an autopilot habit, just the same way that we tie our shoes, brush our teeth. We don't think about it, we just do it. So if you're doing that, give yourself the 2.5, 3 months. In about a month of changing a habit, you will feel the benefits. But for it to be autopilot, we need about 3 months of consistency to do it. Also know that sometimes we do have setbacks. That's normal. Setbacks are part of life. If you're human and you're in the human experience, you will have some setbacks. Don't judge them. Don't insult yourself or bully yourself about it. Just identify the triggers that caused you to have a setback or a relapse. Think about how you compare and plan for those setbacks next time. And also think about, how do you cope with setbacks? Do you have healthy coping skills? And it could be any of the ones we just talked about that should be in your emotional toolbox. It could be meditation, yoga, exercise, deep breathing, grounding. It could also be your support system, whatever works for you, but how can you cope? So those are the different stages of change. And again, knowing yourself is the best for all of this. The same with grieving, with forgiveness, healing. Everybody has their own time frame. We should never judge it. You just want to do the best for you. And also remembering this, healing, grieving, forgiving, change, none of it can be done completely alone. You always need to have a support system, even if it's just one or two people, but make sure you have those one or two people unconditionally. And if you don't have it in your life, as in friends or family, then it could be spiritual or religious, like a priest, a rabbi, a minister, be professional, a therapist, a counselor, a life coach, could be a medical team. If it's a medical situation, your specialist. It could be if you're living in a, a CRCC, it could be just your staff. They become family. So just making sure you have that, because we do need others to heal. Okay.
Great.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you, Diane. Okay, so we do have a few questions to answer. If you have questions, you can type them into the Q&A box. But before we get to questions, I want to just let folks know we have a really terrific online workshop coming up on May 15th called Scientifically Proven Ways to Maximize Brain Health. It's been a lot of new research that's recently been unveiled regarding brain health. And this is one not to miss. So there's a QR code there. If you'd like to scan that with your phone, you can register that way, or you can go to riverwoodsnh.org and go to our events tab and register there. So that's May 15th from 1 to 2 o'clock. Okay, so we're going to go to the question and answer queue. Got a couple really nice comments, Diane. Thanks so much. Great tips that you've been sharing. Many people moving here, I guess wherever they're moving from, they're moving away from what they know as home into a new home. And oftentimes it's kind of a trade-off in terms of the physical aspects of, coming from a home that maybe have a water view or have beautiful gardens or just may be comfortable to them, and then moving into a space that's smaller and has different characteristics in terms of visual or spatial aspects. Can you comment on some tips about how to manage that potential stress?
So when we're moving, and a lot of times you are moving from a place you've been at for a while and you're downsizing, a lot of times it's very easy to compare it or judge it. But the truth is, everything is going to have its pros and cons. And I'd have to say, one of the things I've noticed with clients, and I work with a lot of clients who are downsizing and moving into CRCCs, and they'll feel the same way. Like, I'm leaving where I was, I'm leaving the comfortability, I'm leaving the waterfront or near the beach. But what you end up with is really a community and socialization that most people have never had before. Because this is the thing, socialization is the top factor of happiness, which includes having community, includes having fun, and it includes support. And when you get into a community like this, you're able to have all of those covered. You get the community, which gives us that sense of belonging, which is really important. We need to have that sense of belonging, that there's other people like us, feel similar to us. So that you get the fun with all the different activities, you get the support system, not just with the new friendships, but also the staff. The staff becomes family. And for most people, they don't even have to drive as much or leave. Everything is there. So you get a convenience that you've never had before. So yes, there is always, an exchange of what you had to what what you're going to have, but it's looking at the positives of it and realizing that there is a lot more to gain than people expect. And they're also beautiful, but moving in will give you that big socialization, that community that is so important, as well as the fun. And those are the umbrella of socialization. And that's the top factor of happiness. So we want to have all that. And that's what you get in the community. So remembering that sometimes we don't get the exact area we want to live or the exact view, and it's definitely going to be a little bit smaller, but in exchange, you get all of that socialization, which is really amazing for our happiness, which we really need, as well as the community.
Great. Thank you, Diane. Diane, somebody asked the name of the app. I know the name of the app, so I typed the answer in there, but if you'd like to remind folks of the free app that you recommend for
Sure.
meditation.
It's called Insight Timer. And there's two others that people use, Calm or Headspace, but those are paid. Insight Timer is completely free, and it has one of the biggest libraries of meditations and nature sounds, so you'll get a lot out of it. And of course, YouTube, which is free, also has a lot of great meditations and nature sounds and stories. So you can use any of those. Or, of course, if you want to, you can get CDs of meditations. You just need to have headphones, whatever works. And if you don't want to do that, just getting nature sounds and getting that white noise puts us in a meditative. So you could buy, like on Amazon, they have these noise machines and they have like 8 different sounds on there, from the beach to the birds and to the bees, the rain, a fan. And that can work as well too if you don't want to do any of the technology ones.
Great. So we have a question about, it says your advice seems to be from the perspective of an extrovert. Could you speak to the needs of an introvert?
So honestly, I think I'm kind of a mix of a both. And I think a lot of us think that it's an extroverted. I think most of us have a mix of extrovert and introverted. So here's the thing about if you're going into a new community and you're more introverted, the communities are also really great for that as well, because they also have events where you can meet 1 or 2 people, but you get to choose the events that you go to. You don't have to go to the larger events. You can go to the smaller ones. You could do the virtual events, which is great for a lot of introverts. And the other thing is, they have the libraries with the books. So you don't have to be an extrovert. And here's the thing, extroverts and introverts still need socialization, but you get to choose what that looks like. If you're an extrovert, it might be the big events where there's, 20, 30 people. If you're an introvert, it might just be meeting people where there are games going on that are just 2 or 3 people, maybe 4 at a table. And then you just get to meet those 3 or 4 people, which is much better for an introvert. But you get to choose that. And the other part about that is sometimes you'd be surprised that a lot of the introverts say that they kind of expand themselves a little bit. And there's, what's good for us is that when we step outside of our comfort zone, not all the time, but here and there, and try new things, we get a boost of happiness as well. And that's where our growth is. So it's okay to stretch it a little bit. And if you're an extrovert, there's nothing wrong with going to the smaller events or the virtual, or sitting at a table where there's just 2 or 3 people playing a game to just develop deeper relationships. It's whatever you choose. And the best thing is you can talk to the staff and find out, what would be the best events for me? And everybody there is there to help you. So it's okay whether you're an introvert or extrovert, it's being aware of what you want out of the new place that you're moving to, that you're downsizing to.
Great. We have a question asking if you have a podcast, Diane.
No, I don't. I should though, because I could babble for hours, but no, I don't. And thank you for everybody who said, nice, kind feedback about the presentations. I saw a bunch of that. So thank you guys for that. I appreciate it.
Great. One last question, and then we're going to wrap up. Is from somebody wondering how to handle those opinionated close friends and family who are opposed to the decision to move to a CCRC like Riverwoods.
So this is the thing. Not everybody's always going to agree with the decision you make. And the thing you have to think about is, one, are these people that you would even ask advice from? Sometimes we find ourselves taking advice from people we wouldn't even ask their advice from. So if you wouldn't ask them for their advice, it's not important that you need to take it. The other thing is, again, where is it coming from? Is it that maybe they had a bad situation, they didn't move to the right place, or they heard bad things? Sometimes it's just their fear. And that's okay. Everybody has the right to what they feel, but you still need to do what's best for you and make sure that you're happy. And the best thing you can say to them is just, thank you for your consideration and your thoughts and feedback. I'll take it into consideration. That's it. Set your boundaries with it. Or you could say to them, I appreciate your concern, but I got this. That's the boundaries that we have to set. And also remembering this, is it somebody, we have sometimes people in our lives who are very negative, right? They're the pessimist or realist, as they call themselves. The glass is half empty. So again, take that into consideration, because for some people, they're not going to be happy wherever they are. And they just put their unhappiness on you, but it doesn't mean that you will not enjoy it. So You stick to what makes you happy and what you want.
Great. Great advice to end on. Diane, thank you so much. You have really shared some terrific strategies for folks at any stage of life to navigate change. So thank you so much for being with us today. And thank you all for attending. This will be recorded and posted to our website. So if you want to share it with others, it will be available to share. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
so much.
Diane.
Bye,
All right.
everybody. Have a good day. Thank you,
Have a great
everybody.
day. Bye.
Bye-bye.